This is our Week 9 preview. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. Your time, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard. The place, Ralph Wilson Stadium, Orchard Park, New York. The line is the Bills +2. On the call, Nance and Romo.
CBS is doing the pregame show from the stadium. I mean, if you want me to run over there with 4 gift boxes of Q and give it to Matt Ryan, Nate Burleson, he doesn't get any. Did you see him last week on the pregame show?
No.
He looked like the first guy shot in the movie Dick Tracy.
To another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And Chris, it feels like I don't know, this is the date, this is the week, this is the game that you look for when the schedule comes out, isn't it?
Yeah, this feels very different based on, I don't know. I want to say based on the Patriot and Falcons game and how that played out. And then we, like Auburn, Alabama, we had a cupcake last week against Carolina. But then that also happened last year where we played Houston, Baltimore, got our asses handed to us. And then a couple weeks later saw Kansas City. But I don't know. This one just feels different. Like it's like we shouldn't be favored and we shouldn't win this.
It's hilarious to think about how we got here, but I want to start this by saying it used to be the New England Patriots, and you look at your schedule as soon as it came out, you go, okay, where are we playing Tom Brady? Circle that date because that's the best home game we as Bills fans are going to see. And it was usually really good football, just not for anybody wearing your team's uniform. And it was demoralizing and depressing. Now that's moved on to be the Kansas City Chiefs game, who, because we keep finishing in first in the AFC East, it's just like they've become a part of our lives. They're that like shitty neighbor that lives next door to you that you fight with and you can't get away from because you both live here. That's the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, and that's the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. And so in that way, this is the week that everybody starts circling on their calendar as soon as the schedule comes out. Is it early? Is it late? Is it after the bye? Is it before our bye? Where does it fall? How far down the road is it? What time of year will the tailgate be nice? All these things come up. And now it's here. Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. And in that way, it's probably the last big tailgate we're going to host before the playoffs. Wouldn't you say? Like, out of all the tailgates, and I don't mean big in terms of head count. I mean big in terms of there's an energy that you get at a tailgate where you're like, oh shit, today's the day. Like, there's something on the line here. There's some juice to this one.
I think it goes down every week that we get closer to December, where it's people are like, do I want to go? Is it going to be too cold?
It's going to be cold. 20, it's like, guys, we're the only people with actual heat solutions out here.
20% chance of rain right now for the game. So the weather plays a factor in. It's not like, end of September, early October home game.
Buffalo just slowly sucks the life out of the tailgate scene. And you're just like, all right, this might be our last big hurrah until the playoffs. If we get to host one in 2025, which has yet to be seen. Guys, this is going to be something. If you can make it out. Chris, where can they find us?
4180 Abbott Road, Dock Slot. Hell of a menu for this week. Baby back ribs, chicken wings, pork belly. I'll be making a walnut old fashioned. That should be fun. And
what goes into a walnut old fashioned again?
It's walnuts. I use walnut syrup and then Turkish tobacco bitters. I did a tasting on Saturday. I lined up I wanted the walnut syrup and then the benchmark bonded, and then I sampled it with almond syrup, cardamom syrup, Turkish tobacco syrup, and something else. Not black walnut bitters. I didn't want it to be walnut overload. I wanted one of the bitters to work well with the walnut syrup, and tested it with the father-in-law and Jessica, and they both said Turkish tobacco bitters, and that's what we're going with.
There's also going to be tomahawk steaks provided by our friends over at Palmer's Markets, which Chris can't. I'm not even going to say it. I want it to be a surprise for when you get to see it, guys. If you're coming on Sunday, plan on stopping by the tailgate. We're going to put on a show for the last one. But I don't even think that's the coolest part of this entire. I mean, it probably is the coolest part of the entire thing. Who am I kidding? Palmer's is such a great partner of ours. I can't wait to see these things. But Chris, the pork ribs, where are they coming from?
Yeah, my sister-in-law set us up. We'll just do a little read here for Newman Farms, who are supplying the pork. When it comes to quality you can taste, it starts at the source. Newman Farms, from heritage breed Berkshire pork to pasture-raised meats, every cut is crafted with care and tradition. Family run, sustainably raised, and delivered straight from our farm to your table. Discover the flavor of true farm-to-fork excellence in newmanfarms.com, where heritage meets flavor.
I love it. You're talking about things going 5 minutes. It's how fast this week is going to go, because I feel like that's what happens when you're stressed out about things that get to you faster. And that's how this game is going to arrive at my doorstep. This is our Week 9 preview. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. Your time, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard. The place, Ralph Wilson Stadium, Orchard Park, New York. The line is the Bills +2. We are home dogs to the Kansas City Chiefs. On the call, Nance and Romo. Injuries of note for the Buffalo.
The whole crew's here. CBS is doing the pregame show from the stadium because it's nationally televised.
Should I paint Q42 or like a big Grills Mafia logo on my belly and just take my shirt off and run through the background?
I mean, if you want me to run over there with 4 gift boxes of Q and give it to Matt Ryan, who else is on the panel? Not J.J. Watt. Nate Burleson, he doesn't get any. Did you see him last week on the pregame show?
No.
He looked like the first guy shot in the movie Dick Tracy.
Yes. Oh, my God. He doesn't get any because he dresses poorly. Chris, this is why I love you.
Dude, he wore some ugly suit. It just reminded me of the movie with Dick Tracy.
Oh, that's not a terrible idea. I will run it by the brass. Injuries of note for this game. The Buffalo Bills signed Jordan Porter and Jordan Phillips up from the practice squad to the active roster. They have signed them there with Rapp and Oliver headed to the IR. It's funny they didn't choose Eli Anku.
Oh, he's still here?
Well, exactly. They're like, we don't have DeQuan Jones, and everyone's like, well, why don't you go get a one tech? And they're like, I just don't want. It's like at some point they just need to come out and say it. We don't like you. We don't like you, Eli Anku. We just keep hiring you because the fans are ear beating us into having a one tech somewhere in the building. We need it for the scout defense. In fact, that might be the answer. Because he never gets a chance to play. The only reason we have one tech D tackles in the building besides DeQuan Jones is probably because of the scout defense. Otherwise, because this just defies logic at this point. Due to be out is also Jordan Palmer with his ankle injury, who I do not believe will practice this week. You can mark my words on that he will not play in this game. Questionable, Matt Milano, pec injury, probably won't play in this game. Terrell Bernard, ankle, day-to-day. He was held out of the last game, but he was like a break glass in case of emergency type player. That one's touchy. I wonder if they wouldn't, Chris, knowing that we're already underdogs and being like, look, I don't know if this goes well or not, because we're not where we need to be as a team. Maybe you do just say, look, we'll roll the dice, and if he's healthy-ish, we'll dress him like we did, and then we'll see if we can get by without him. And can you see a world where they make that decision?
It's going to be tough.
And then Dalton Kincaid with his oblique injury. He'll probably be listed with a questionable tag throughout most of the week. Maybe later in the week he'll pick up a full participant. And yet he only played 14 snaps against Carolina, which tells you he is not healthy. In which case,
you can go watch the game in a box with Josh Norris.
Yeah, I would rather they not do what they did last week with Dalton Kincaid. It actually pissed me off a little bit. If he's not well, he's not going to get better taking hits running routes out there on the field. This isn't I feel like injured players need to be treated like injured players, and the Bills have treated some of their injured players lately. Like, that almost underscores desperation from the coaching staff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny. I keep looking at this. You still have this meat up here on the screen. There's a bacon bundle for $75. I want that. I want it. I want it in my mouth. I want it in my fridge. Kansas City, though, they've got issues. So Kansas City, running back Isaiah Pacheco, I was watching the game last night when he took a hit, and he looked fine, but he now has an MCL sprain, and he is doubtful to play this week. Offensive guard Trey Smith is experiencing back spasms, and he missed the last 2 games. Mike Caliendo wasn't good against the Raiders, but that was when he had to step in towards the end of the game. And then this past week, they couldn't get Trey Smith on the field to practice. So it's possible that Trey Smith isn't available. And if he is, he's not 100%, which I think is noteworthy considering what a talent he is. They just signed him to a 4-year extension in the offseason. This game is nuanced, right? It's never just as easy as lining up against a team like the Raiders or against if you're going to play the Carolina Panthers, or if you're going to go play the New York Jets. These teams have one speed, and that's what they have. And it mostly comes down to the fact that their quarterback play just isn't good enough to give them multiple gears, multiple ways to attack you. It's because their defensive coordinating and their defensive talent level is not enough that they can't be multiple things. They can be a team that plays a ton of zone. They can play really physical man defense. Like, most teams don't have that. They have one speed and they know what their lane is. Then you've got some teams that are kind of in the middle in terms of being able to vary their play style from one week to the next. The Seattle Seahawks come to mind, where you're watching them this year. Last year, Chris, we went out west, played the Seahawks, and embarrassed them. Because on defense, they were trying to play a style of defense that didn't fit. And they had an offensive coordinator in Ryan Grubb, who hilariously is now the offensive coordinator for Alabama. Chris, do you know how many times every week I message Jason Hicksonbaugh and just cuss out Ryan Grubb?
Probably every week.
You coach at Alabama. I have a shirt that just says, run the ball, with like 7 W's. Ball. You run the ball because it's Alabama. Do you know Ryan Grubb, one of the reasons he got fired from the NFL is because he had Geno Smith and the Seahawks throwing. Geno Smith, you know how many prolific wide receivers they had?
None.
They were throwing the ball over 40 times a game on average. Yeah, you get fired from the NFL for that. You don't get to be here. This isn't college. Go back. So with that said, they've found their stride. They can now be a team that throws the ball with Sam Darnold, and they can take some shots, and they can make a ton of chunk plays using a really skilled wide receiver core. But they can also lean on you and pound you with the run. And they can also play tough physical coverage in the secondary, but they can also play zone, and they can be more of a takeaway-centric defense. That's what the Kansas City Chiefs do in spades. They can, whatever you're bad at, they can find a way to be that. They're chameleons. They change their color, or octopus. They're octopi. They change their color and shape to fit what it is that mimics your weakness. And they figure it out, and they become that thing, and they throttle you to death with it. And so in that way, it's hard to know what they are.
All right,
it's a complicated conversation. And so for that, we need a guest who gets into some complicated topics. And so to try to have a conversation that requires this much nuance, there's very, very little chance I'm capable of delivering that on my own, which is why one of our favorite guests has made time out of his busy, busy life to join us for this. I can't thank him enough. Mr. Anthony Prohaska from Cover One's Disguised Coverage and the Film Room. How are you this evening, sir?
Good. Thank you guys for having me. I feel weird not being in studio. There's no whiskey sour in my hand. I don't really know. I just feel out of place, but I'm excited to be here.
It is weird not having you here, like in the room while we do this conversation, because usually like you seem very laid back. You're actually one of the more like demonstrative people when you get fired up about things, and I really enjoy that about our conversations.
Yeah, well, I hate you and everything you bring up, so it brings out the worst in me.
See, that's it. I managed to bring out the worst in people, and no one believes in me, but this is a talent. It's a skill.
It is a talent. You've cultivated it. You've crafted it. You've honed it. Much like pass rushing and running routes. It takes a precision and a dedication that you have afforded yourself, and I respect that.
Listen, Chris, it's a hustle, right?
It's like MJF as a heel. Like you just know how to do it.
So while we're here talking about talent, I think it's the best way to segue into this conversation because we already know what people like myself and what a lot of other Bills fans think when it comes to the coaching advantages in this game. You know, if you look at our coaching staff at the coordination and the head coach position, it's hard to find someone who wouldn't say that the table is kind of slanted towards the Chiefs in that regard. And they've earned that. I mean, they've been 2 and 1 Super Bowls. You've got Steve Spagnuolo, who is probably the best non-head coach in the NFL. I mean, that guy makes wine out of water on a regular basis and has for years. It's been up and down at times this season, which is interesting. And then you take a look at, I almost think like Matt Nagy is almost an albatross on that team. And I almost like the fact that he's there because it does kind of bring the rest of them down. I mean, would you say that's a crazy assessment of their coaching staff?
I don't think it's a crazy assessment given what he was as a head coach, but I think as a coordinator with that team, he just knows his role. Like you're as an offensive coordinator on that team, you're really just the steward to Andy Reid, and whatever he needs, you go out and execute.
You're the guy who goes and fetches sandwiches?
I would say, or the tablet. You're literally just the tablet guy to be like, hey, Pat, look at this other play in cover 2. You see the tablet? What's that, Andy? No, I'm sorry, this is cover 1. Yeah, look at the tablet. There's cover 1 on here. Yeah, you're the tablet guy and just running what Andy needs. Like you're just there to be a shepherd. And I mean, I don't want to say you can plug in anyone there, but Nagy's got a good track record there, and he works well with Reid. So if there was going to be a scenario where he's sweet, it would be in that role with that team and that head coach and that quarterback.
And so when we move past that and you look at what's on the field, you know, it's the Jimmies and Joes, not always the X's and O's. You know, you can have a great coach and you can coach up a great scheme, and then it all goes to shit the second that the whistle blows because you guys can't execute it. And this one team just has some decided physical advantages. They execute. How much of a talent mismatch? Like that's kind of what I've been wondering this time around. When you think about the cold start that the Chiefs had to where they are now, the hot start the Bills had to where they are now, and just how much of an actual talent mismatch exists and how much of it is just conflated in our heads because we're angsty Bills fans who are angry about recent events.
I think the Bills still have a good roster, but I think where the difference comes is I think kind of the top end or top tier guys that Kansas City has. You know, you've got Mahomes like the Bills have Allen, but then after Allen, it's like, okay, how many true A-tier guys do you have on the Bills? Do you have any? Do you have, like, even if you think you have some aside from Allen, I think it's more arguable than it is solidified. The Chiefs have 2 guaranteed right off the bat with Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie. Chris Jones is still one of the best disruptors in the NFL. I know he's down at times and had the ugly play in whatever game that everybody was mocking him for earlier this year where he didn't run down
he stood there hands on hips and just watched Trevor Lawrence like flop around and then roll into the end zone.
Yes.
One of the most childish touchdowns I've ever seen.
It was not great, but he still has the ability to turn it on and still be that game wrecker a bit. Trent McDuffie's one of the best corners in football, is a consummate like all-pro candidate. And then I think like there's a lot of guys aside from that where they've got good role players. They've got some good B- players like the Bills have. but you've still just got a lot of guys who fit really well into their role on the defensive side that almost makes them play like B pluses and even A minuses at times. Like guys like, I mean, what Nick Bolton has done, what Drew Tranquil has been able to do, just what they get out of the linebacker spot. And then on offense, you've got 2 all-pros on the interior with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. I think those are qualify as like A-tier kind of guys. So I do think there is a talent discrepancy at the top of the depth chart between the Chiefs and the Bills. But I think the Bills mitigate that a bit by having, I think, a higher floor within their roster, which is what they've had for years, right? Their whole team has been depth, just not high level or high tier.
And I think so, like Brett Coleman, we talked about this in a previous show a couple weeks ago, but Brett Coleman did an analysis and kind of showed where teams that have won Super Bowls primarily do it with homegrown talent. Like you still have to, when you win a Super Bowl, it's because you've drafted and cultivated. And the Bills are right up there in terms of percentage of the roster that they've drafted and cultivated. They just don't have the star power that some of these other teams have in that category. And one thing that I'll touch on, even where you didn't, was Travis Kelce. I think you could take Travis Kelce for what he is right now and plug him into 15 other teams in the NFL, and he is a perfectly mediocre name wide receiver. He goes out there, he catches passes, and he probably doesn't give you more than, I mean, he'll put up a Dallas Goedert stat line on most teams, and he would be that guy. And that's okay. He's not the star that he is, because what seems to make him special is just the rapport that he shares with Patrick Mahomes. And one of the things we talked about in our recap from the Carolina game this week was just the idea that Allen just doesn't have that guy who just intrinsically understands what Josh needs in a given moment and can give it to him, and can do so to like devastating effect for the other team. If I want to break down some of the individual matchups we're going to see and just see where some of that lies, I think about the Bills' offensive line and kind of what we put on display against the Panthers in terms of run blocking prowess, and having that perfect combination of a back that can exploit what our run blockers do really well versus what is a very, very talented Kansas City front seven. Like, where do you say the talent advantage in this one goes to?
I think Chris Jones is a better defensive lineman than any of the Bills are offensive linemen, if that makes sense. And I think Karlaftis is nothing to sneeze at, but I would give the advantage to the Bills' offensive line. I think the Bills have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, especially from a run defense or a run game standpoint, against the Chiefs' kind of run defense aspect. And I know there's been some gaps in pass protection recently with the Bills, like miscommunication pieces at the line, like them not being able to handle load fronts and just basic number counts and kind of things that are basic of like who's hot, who's picking up who, grab the inside man, let the outermost guy go free. They've had some hiccups in that regard.
Jerry Ostrowski, former Bills offensive lineman Jerry Ostrowski, actually made a point just talking about after the Falcons game when they were talking about what's broken with this. And, people were looking at why are these pass rushes flummoxing a quarterback who for like most of his career has made your attempts to pass rush him seem feeble and weak.
Yeah, his pressure to sack rate it was the best in the league last year amongst like 40 qualifying QBs. It's usually one of the best. Like he's around like 8 to 10% usually. This year he's like middle of the pack, like closer to like 18, 20%, which is unreal for him.
And so what they were talking about was he was talking about just watching, and he goes, it looks like there's some miscommunication taking place, or at least a lack of familiarity in terms of, okay, we see what it is. Which way are we sliding our protection? Are we, and if we do, who picks up whom? And how is this going to be organized? Because you have guys who come on delayed blitzes and there's it's not even like they have to hesitate. It's easy for them to pick a gap and shoot it. And we're not familiar with seeing that. And I think if you're not used to watching blocking on display, you don't pick up on that. You just see your quarterback under duress and go, oh, this line stinks. It's like, well, no, they don't stink. They're just not working in concert like a phalanx.
And it's twofold, really. Like the pre-snap identification pieces and you have two opportunities to do that, right? The offensive line can call it out or Josh Allen can call it out. And Josh Allen is very good pre-snap. He's gotten so much better in that regard over the years. So you can ID it pre-snap, but even if you screw it up pre-snap, the kind of like the ace in the hole that the Bills have had for years was even if you screw up or somebody gets beat, Josh Allen does Josh Allen things and stiff arms a defensive tackle and makes somebody miss. And so you're getting it twofold this year. You're getting the miscommunication and the errors up front, and Allen isn't doing Superman things or mutant things. Even you go to that first sack that everybody was talking about at the end of the first drive the end of the first drive against Carolina, where they let Trevin Wallace, that linebacker, run right through the B gap untouched. We've seen that happen before. Allen just will stiff arm that guy or make that guy miss. And then everybody goes, that's the beauty of Josh Allen. This time he didn't. So things like that have happened over the years. Allen has just usually made the offense right even when they were wrong. But now you're not getting those mutant level plays from him, and you're getting the miscommunication up front. And I do think the miscommunications are kind of happening more so than they were last year. And I do think a lot of it has to do with game script. Like we saw their protections get gamed up by Baltimore and Houston last year because they were getting into 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, and then Baltimore and Houston were just coming at it with designer stuff. Houston was also a little different. Like you've got Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Like that's not fair. Like you can just let those guys. You don't even have to have a plan. You can be like, just go get pressure.
Like when you think about what the front seven is for the Kansas City Chiefs in this game and their ability to try to replicate that, for all the praise that we're going to heap on what the Chiefs defense is and can be, they don't have a Will Anderson. They don't have a Danielle Hunter.
Their advantage is inherently schematic from Spags because you know Spags is going to be like, oh, they're having trouble with this. I'm going to drop a whole bunch of shit to fuck with them and screw them up. And then you're like, oh, no.
If you put George Karlaftis in a Bills uniform, he's probably sort of the same player he is there, except his stats are fewer because he's doing a lot of what he's doing within the scheme that's being created for him. It's not like they're asking him to go out there and create on his own. And that's something you have to combat. So we have a more physically talented unit up front. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do to create some creases in that front. I mean, how confident are you that if I were to put an under-over on Bills rushing in this game at 145 yards, do you think that that's being ambitious, or do you think it's doable given the talent that we have and our ability to kind of go toe-to-toe with what they're going to roll out schematically? Clearly, that's going to be something they're trying to take away in this game.
Does that include Allen scrambles?
Yes.
No, I don't think that's too ambitious then. I think that's doable. And I honestly think that I don't want to open Pandora's box on this, but they have to run the ball like that every week because they're not. We talked about this during the summer. I don't remember which episode it was. We talked about the wide receiver core, and I remember saying it. I remember sitting right next to you and saying, the wide receiver room is fine if your foundation is running the football and condensed formations and body types and all that, right? Their wide receiver room is not good if you have to chuck it 30 to 40 times a game. And that's kind of what we're seeing a little bit, even more so because Palmer's been injured and then Kincaid's been injured, so it's putting more pressure on the rest of the guys that are still there. But they need to run the ball every week. Like with what happened against Carolina, I'm not saying that's the exact thing that they have to do every week, but that's their key to success. Getting 21, getting 12 when you can, 22, and you need to mash the shit out of defenses and then lean more into play action for your explosives. Like that's what they are and where they're going to be. And I know people hate that answer because wide receiver is a hot button topic and Josh Allen's the MVP and quarterbacks and yada, yada. But that's a very quarterback friendly offense. It also lets Allen kind of keep his cape tucked away until he really needs to unpack it and do something nuts. But they need to run the ball to beat any team, but especially Kansas City, because if they let Spags get into his designer stuff or they get into third and predictable or those known drop back situations, I don't want any parts of that.
So in this game, 8 hours ago, Anthony Prohaska tweeted, the Buffalo Bills on the year on rushes from 21 personnel.
Oh, yeah, I did tweet this.
6.5 yards per rush, which is good for second in the NFL. Chris, yes, it is in our bookmarks. You can add that in post. 4.3 yards before contact per rush, which is first in the NFL.
And it's also about 1.6 yards more than the Saints, who are second at 2.7.
Yeah, plus 0.247 EPA per rush, which is fifth in the NFL. And yet they have 24 attempts, which is 10th. Those, to quote the great Matthew McConaughey, those are rookie numbers. You gotta pump those numbers up, man.
I mean, I would like to see them lean into that and play action. It's weird because it's the whole chess match piece and the kind of like they know what we know and we know that they know what we know that they know. Like, so you have your tendencies, you have the stuff that works, but you don't want to lean into it too much and like pigeonhole yourself or silo yourself. But it's also like you got to dance with who brought you, and this is who brought you. Like, you're not built to chuck it all around the field. And I hate being the person to be like, see, I told you. Like, I had so many people yelling at me because during the Miami game when they had those 3 straight drives where they looked really ugly on offense, and then they got bailed out by the the roughing the punter.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, at some point the Bills are going to need to push the ball downfield. Like, they're going to need to open things up a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting all these tight spells. It's going to be worrisome. And not everybody, actually a lot of people joined on that side, but there were a bunch of people, a very loud group that was like, oh, look what they did at the end of the Baltimore game. They slung it all around. The offense is built to throw the ball. No, they're fucking not.
Not when the other team's playing prevent defense. Yes, there's all kinds of states
when they're just chilling and choking things away. Yeah, but if you're going up against teams with good corners or athletic corners and a game plan, they're not built for that. Like, I'm not saying chuck away every other personnel grouping and chuck away the pass, no pun intended.
No, it's a blend. You have to find balance.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the balance that we have to find means it's like, instead of being a 50-50 run pass, you're probably now looking at like a 65-35 run to pass ratio. And maybe you could push that to 70-30.
Especially with how Cook looks. Cook looks real good, man. Like, just let him rock.
Well, look at the tight end room. The tight end room out there. Mind you, Dalton Kincaid had like 14 snaps against Carolina.
Yeah, you could tell he wasn't healthy.
And one of his catches went for 23 yards. And you go, he's the most explosive offensive player we have right now. So,
especially from a mismatch creation standpoint. Like Palmer versus a corner or Kincaid versus a linebacker or a safety. Give me Kincaid versus a linebacker or a safety every single day.
And so until something else works, you've got Hawes and you've got Knox and you've got Dalton Kincaid, who once again is fighting an injury that's limiting his ability to contribute. And that's kind of what you're going to rock with. And it's going to power your running game, your passing game. You need more play action. They need to get smarter about this. Now, we know that. On the other side of the ball, the Bills' defensive ends, I don't think this gets talked about enough. This is probably the worst tackle group that the Chiefs have put together in a while. I think that if you look at, Josh Simmons not being available, and you know what? It's easy to go, oh yeah, well, whatever that guy's going through, I don't care. It's one thing when a guy's hurt, he's got nagging injuries and he can't play. It's another thing and I'll say this is one of the pettiest watchers of football. There's people who have watched games with me who have heard me say some really terrible things.
Simonelli?
Oh my God. Who have heard me say some awful things about opposing players and some of their injuries they've sustained, some of the things I wish would happen. And not even to them, but to people they know, their neighbors, it turns into Unforgiven really quickly. So, yeah. So when you see a guy that talented come out, be picked in the first round, be starting in the NFL, and then have to leave the team for personal reasons, and it becomes a real thing. Like, I don't know, mental health is a thing, man. And it's whatever the guy's going through, God bless him, because that's awful. But without him, Jalen Moore is a very highly paid backup. He's making $15 million a year as a reserve tackle, which is rare. I don't know that there's a swing tackle in the league making that kind of money. But I think the Chiefs understand how important, and it was them hedging their bets, saying we're going to draft a late first round pick and tackle, and if it doesn't work, we need something that won't get our, we've invested in a Ferrari. We don't want to store it underneath one of those like tin, you buy it on Temu and you build it in the backyard with like
the tin tent type deal.
Yeah. So they go out and they get Jalen Moore, but Jalen Moore, like, let's not pretend he's been perfect. He's given up multiple pressures and at least a sack in most of his starts. He's not ideal. And then you look at what they have at right tackle. Juwan Taylor is Juwan Taylor. If he's not cheating, he's giving up pressures. And if he is cheating, then someone needs to be ear beating the officials until they flag him for it. And it works. He gets called at least once a game. because someone finally just gets sick of getting yelled at and they go, fine, I'll flag him for a false start. It's hilarious, but it works. The numbers actually show that you get more pass interference calls on the sideline. On the side, it like throws to the boundary, throws to the sideline. You get more pass interference calls when the quarterback throws to the side that the when he's throwing to his own bench. It's human nature.
I remember getting told that in high school ball, and our coach is asking like, "Oh, why do you think that?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's 1,000% a thing."
That is 100% real. So when you look at this tackle room, and then you look at what the Bills have at edge, I feel like that's a specific matchup that favors Buffalo in terms of what we have between Hoyt, Bosa, Rousseau, and Epinesa. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. Maybe not sneakily. Joey Bosa's having like a really productive year from like a pressure rate standpoint, a pressure standpoint, like a win rate standpoint. I know the sacks aren't like coming in bunches, but even the Panthers game, he had a couple really nice pressures on some swim moves that coverage just got beat on the back end, and Andy Dalton delivered a dime. Bosa's been no jinx, fingers crossed to all this. Bosa has been like good. Bosa has been as advertised, like of what they needed him to be. Rousseau is starting to get a bit healthier, getting a bit better each week. That, shocking. The more healthy he gets, the better he plays. Epinesa is having a sneaky good year. Again, maybe not. Like contract year AJ Epinesa seems to be a thing. He did it a couple years ago, and now he's doing it again now.
Those of you who are Sabres fans, I called him Drew Stafford years ago. I go, this is the guy who, when he's owed a contract, is going to score 30 goals. And you're going to go, we need this guy. Oh, my God, he's getting interceptions almost for touchdowns. We need him. And then the second you write that check, he's going to go right back to being the same pedestrian player that he always has been.
They can keep him at keep doing the whole 2 years, 10 million, or 2 years. Give him 5 to 7, 8.
I mean, if he wants to
that.
stay at the way the salary cap is increasing, if you can afford a guy who's doing what AJ Epinesa has done through the first half of 2025 for us for 6 to 8, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Write the check.
Yeah. But he's been a solid rotational guy, and then you get Hoyt back, who looked really good. And I mean, he is an edge.
Did you jump up the way that I did when Michael Hoyt just bull rushed their right tackle directly into Andy Dalton's lap?
I mean, he did that 3 different times. He was just going through that dude. You could watch him just kind of on the snap and be like, what should I? Yeah, I'm going to go through. And just bang. He was lifting him off the ground. And there was one, he's in a real wide alignment, and he just goes pure speed to power, gets through him. He beat him on a, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of the technique, but he beats him inside at one point and pins his arm through, and just everything that he was able to do in that game. Really encouraging for his first game back. I want to see them continue to use him in more spots than just edge. But yeah, I would think with what the Bills are rocking with their top 4 right now of Bosa and Rousseau and Hoyt and Epinesa, I think they definitely, especially from a rotation standpoint, you get all 4 of those guys going against just 2 tackles, and you can keep those hockey lines changing in and out. That's a really nice thing. Cross chop, that's the move. He hits him with a cross chop inside. It was driving me insane. Sorry.
So you're talking about moving Hoyt around. I think that's going to be necessary now, given the injury to Ed Oliver, and just how they're going to have to generate pass rush from across the line, because it can't just come from the edges. There still has to be a presence in the middle. And in obvious pass rushing scenarios, since you have all these guys, you now have the ability. We haven't seen what it looks like with all those guys out there without Ed Oliver, so I don't know if they will do it. But they have the ability to put together sort of like a NASCAR package, like what the Giants used to do back in the day with OCU Manure, where they go, hey, listen, get inside. You go inside and play D-tackle, because you're going to be faster and more athletic than those guards. And you're bigger than that center. And let's see, I mean, Creed Humphrey, but which is hilarious considering Boogie Basham is barely.
I don't want to play that game. I don't want to do it. I'm not playing that game. I'm not going down that road. I refuse.
Somewhere Greg Thompson just felt it on the wind like Obi-Wan Kenobi when Alderaan exploded, and he was like, I feel like somewhere Drew Gear is invoking this damn conversation again.
There's so many you could do that with over the years for the Bills. It just happens. The bigger one for me is the Trent McDuffie one. That one's always going to stick with me because corners are a big need.
The fact that they jumped right in front of us to get him too. It's like, you bastards, you knew.
That's
you knew.
That's the one that gets me. And I know like McDuffie's played nickel, and I thought he could have played outside. I mean, he has played outside for Kansas City, but yeah, that one will always get me more, especially because like the Bills didn't get Humphrey, but like Mitch Morse was sweet. Connor McGovern's sweet. Like, so yeah, it's not Humphrey, but like you've still had good dudes at center. Like they've had issues at corner that have been frustrating with McDuffie, like just continuing to ball out for Kansas City. That one kills me more.
So when you think about the interior of the Chiefs' offensive line, but also what it means to their offensive structure, because with the Chiefs, people look at our injuries at D-tackle and go, oh, well, we're screwed. Well, for those of you who don't know or weren't watching, I watched Isaiah Pacheco he took a nasty hit. And then he ran off the field last night, and he got on the training table, and they looked at his knee, and he popped up off the table, and he was doing his like running thing on the sideline, and he literally like fake bit a guy, which I thought was awesome. I go, please give me someone with that kind of energy on the sideline of a football game. I want him on my football team. But he then they report today he's got an MCL sprain, and he's week to week. So it's unlikely that he's going to play in this game. And then you start looking at the lack of rushing success.
Kareem Hunt's going to go for like $175.
Well, and so you look
and I'm going to throw myself through a window.
I mean, when you look at what's going on with their offense, their rushing attack has been fairly quiet, and they have not been like Kareem Hunt getting outside the tackle box has not been good. Like, it's not like he no longer has the burst to get around the corner.
No, he's a plotter. He's like a pure plotter in his movements.
But that's okay because in the structure of a team, when you had a Pacheco, even though Pacheco hasn't been performing well, like he hasn't been a star for them, he's been doing enough that when they get into the red zone and Kareem Hunt can be a receiving threat. And when they get into short yardage situations, Kareem Hunt can come in and grind out 2-3 yards at a clip for you when you need to move the chains. You look at it, they had 8 first downs on the ground against Detroit, but not a single guy had more than like 40 yards. They had 8 first downs on the ground last night against the Commanders, and yet not a single guy had more than like 50 or 60 yards. They had 1 rush over the course of their last 3 games of over 18 yards against teams that weren't named the Raiders. They're not the most explosive rushing team. Now you're talking about them potentially being without Trey Smith, which I think is big. I also think that the loss of Pacheco hurts their depth chart at running back. Knowing that this has been a problem with their offense all season, you watch what they've done in the passing game to augment it. They now have the second highest rate in the NFL of screen passes. Screen passes are like the driver of their offense. More than 15% of all their plays are screen passes. And when you look at it, and then you look at the way that they spread it around, they haven't had a 100-yard receiving performance by an individual player yet this year. So they're doing the thing where everybody eats. You know, we get frustrated about it now when we see it not working. They've found a way to coordinate it into working by literally just attacking the edges of a defense and saying, well, I think the defensive tackle versus the interior offensive line conversation becomes a little less important when you think about how Kansas City approaches offense. And they go, hey, we're going to get to your edges and just trust you can't tackle. Which is crazy because that's the one thing the Bills have sucked at this year, or at least been very, very poor, almost an NFL worst at guys getting to the edge and you making those tackles when you have to. Except we saw an improvement against Carolina. How much of that improvement do you think carries over into this game, knowing that that's how Kansas City approaches these things?
I just think Kansas City is a different beast. They're guys in space, the way they move. Worthy in space, Rashee Rice in space, Brashard Smith in space. Like they're just a different kind of animal when it comes to the body types and the traits and the skill sets they have in space. I think I haven't checked the numbers for this week because I got tired of doing it every single week, but just how bad the Bills were, like yards after contact per attempt, like astronomically bad. Like the angles to the ball, the missed tackles, all of it, so bad. And yeah, Kansas City, they'll hit you with an RPO really quick. They'll hit you with the screen. They'll hit the runs with the pass tag. Like they'll just take advantage of the space and numbers and be like, oh, it's 2-on-2 over there. We could probably at worst get 4 yards, but if somebody misses the tackle, we're getting 10. We're getting 10 plus. And the Bills have had a propensity for missing those tackles. I worry about that a lot. Just the tackling aspect in this game, because it's not if you miss a tackle on Tet McMillan for Carolina, he's going to get an extra 3-4 yards. If you miss a tackle on Rashee Rice, he might take it to the house. If you miss a tackle on Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy or Bashard Smith, yeah, he might take it. Even Kelsey, for like his feel, all of a sudden he makes a guy miss in the middle of the field. And Travis Kelsey, it's like, how did you just pick up 12 yards that fast? Like, you can't move like that anymore. How did you do that? Like, tackling is at an absolute premium for them this week, given how the Chiefs operate. And the Bills love to just put a cap on defense and keep everything in front of them. The Chiefs have been able to push the ball a little more vertical this year, so which I feel like is going to make the Bills even more so want to play deep and keep everything in front of them, which means they're going to have to rally and tackle, and the Chiefs know that, and the
they're
Bills
not going
know
to have
that.
safety support dropping down into the box on a regular basis. And if you do, it's a real like, hey, if you're ever going to go single high against this team, it better work, because if it doesn't, you're giving up a massive play the other way. And there's
you have to have corners who can operate on an island in whatever coverage you want. Even if it's cover 3, it's still you're kind of still essentially operating on an island in your deep third there. Yeah, they have to have the speed, they have to have the confidence, they have to have the ball skills. Like it's so much pressure on those guys on the outside. And
well,
yeah,
to your point, I'm looking at the numbers now. Do you know that, like, the separation numbers that we all get angsty about as Bills fans?
I don't get angsty.
Kansas, well, I just don't think you have that in your repertoire. I think emotionally you don't have that in your golf bag.
No, I'm dead inside.
Exactly. That's why we get along. It's this idea that when you look at separation through this many weeks of the NFL season, the Chiefs don't have a single player in the top 20. Juju Smith-Schuster's in the top 30. He's 28th in separation at 3.6, and everybody else is down the chain. Tyquan Thornton, who had that nice little run of games where he was scoring touchdowns on coverage busts, he averages 2.8 yards of separation per attempt. It's like when you see, but also you look at the cushion numbers they're being afforded. In terms of wide receiver cushion, they're all over 6 yards. Every single one of their wide receivers is being given 6 yards off the line of scrimmage. Why? Because that's kind of what you have to do when you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't let them get behind you. And so I think this poses a really unique challenge for the Bills. And it's one of those things of strength versus strength where I just don't know that we have enough of them to really make a difference. I mean, I know you don't get into the business of trying to prognosticate things that haven't happened yet. If you were a gambling man, if I give you 100 units to throw at Kansas City or Bills, because the line's 2, which way would you lean on this one?
Kansas City. I just don't have a lot of, and also I will say too, like, I don't think that's bad. Like this, I think this Bills game against Kansas City means more than years past because the Bills are kind of scuffling a little bit according to the narrative, and the Patriots have become something. So now you're kind of fighting for it's not just the 1 seed battle and the conference standing is against Kansas City. It's like, you just want to win this game to keep pace with the Patriots, kind of. So I think that this game holds a little more, but like we've seen the Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season. So like if the Bills lose this game, it means not a lot to me. If they beat Kansas City, it means not a lot to me in the grand scheme of things. But going into it, like, and I say all that to say, like, even if they lose this game, like, I don't think it's the end of the world. I just don't holistically believe in a lot of what the Bills are doing defensively right now at this point. A lot of, and this is for me personally, like a lot of my biggest fears for the offense and defense, things that I spoke on of like why I wanted certain free agents brought in, why I wanted certain draft or players drafted, the things that I wanted changes in that they didn't change, that I was fearful would come to hurt them, have all come to hurt them. Like all those chickens have come home to roost. And I don't say that to like, see, I was right, pat myself on the back. It's just like frustrating and annoying. And if I can see that and know that, Andy Reid's going to know that and see that. Steve Spagnuolo is going to see that and know that. And I like Sean McDermott being at the helm a little bit more, not a little bit more, a lot more. I like that against Carolina, watching how the defense operated. I think with him, quote unquote, running the defense together with Bobby Babich, whether he was saying that diplomatically and he was really running the show, whatever it was, his influence was felt. The coverages they played, how they operated, the spins that they had, mugging at the line. I feel much, much better with him running the defense. I just don't have a lot of, the roster and the vulnerabilities are a lot for me with this defense. And similarly on some of the points on the offense. And it worries me. And I just think Kansas City is kind of not peaking, but they're running a lot hotter. And I trust their coaching staff more than I do the Bills.
It's frustrating. It's a hell of a thing. I'm sure you're going to have much more for everybody over there on your shows this week. Where can everybody find them? And where can they tune into all of the work you're doing over there at Cover One?
Yeah, so I will be doing the film room Wednesday, October 29th. That should be going live or up at 6 p.m. Eastern. Disguise coverage, I don't know when I'm doing it this week. Normally it's Tuesdays, live, 9 p.m. Eastern every week, but I'm still finishing my move, so my world's in a flux, so I'm not doing the show later tonight. I'd already committed to you guys, so I was like, I can't bump that, so I'm not doing mine. I'm probably going to do mine maybe Thursday of this week, something. Normally it's every week, Tuesday, live, 9 p.m. Eastern. This week I'm going to be doing something. I got to figure out when, once my life stops being a ball of chaos.
Anthony Prohaska, Cover One, Disguise Coverage on Twitter, pro__ANT. It's odd that we didn't have any wrestling talk in that whole conversation.
You know what? I'm not happy we missed out on the wrestling talk because I've been wrestling. I'm just wrestling with this the entire week, trying to figure out, all right, what do we do here? How do we get past this team? And I think, I don't think Anthony's wrong. I think that the Bills are underdogs for a reason. I think you look at these teams and you go, oh boy, how do I get to a place, right? Like, how do I get to a place where I feel good about what's about to take place here? But then I start to think about some of the things, some of the advantages. And I go, we do have some. It's just on us to maximize them. And that brings us to this week's Keys to Victory.
Wow, that's a lot of keys. Bigger the keychain, more powerful the man.
First of all, burn some sage. Let's bring some sage. We'll burn it. We'll try to exercise as many of the demons as we can. I think that's a good idea. In fact, I think every tailgate that's out there this weekend has to have at least one group of people who bring some sage, burn it. Chris, what if we could set this whole parking lot, just fill it with sage smoke? Can we do that?
Yeah, just let Icy know he's got to bring it.
Icy, this has become your job. If you're hearing me now, Icy, I need you to show up with just a fistful of it. You stop at Wegmans on your drive over. I don't care. We're going to set that thing up. I also think this is one where fans need to, I almost feel like this is the speech at the Hot Gates in the movie 300, where he's like, yeah, eat well tonight, guys, because tomorrow we dine in hell. I think that this is either going to be really, really good or really, really bad. And I don't think there's an in-between that exists. I think the Chiefs will come out and embarrass us, or the Buffalo Bills, just this plodding style of offense that they're playing right now, but the offensive execution at the tight end and line positions will prevail, and it will feel like we just dragged them to. It's like an alligator. Like, I almost feel like that's what the Buffalo Bills have to become in this game, is just be an alligator, drag them into the water, the deep water, and just let them drown. And that's how we're going to get by a team that has offensive line questions, running back stable questions. It's probably going to struggle to run the ball, or at least should. And so in that way might be encouraged to do more in terms of how they use their screen game and how they use their outside zone passing and try to generate their offense that way. But so there's a couple things I think we can do besides that. One of them is get after these replacement offensive linemen. Jalen Moore playing left tackle, moments of really good play, but has also been guilty of multiple pressures and at least one sack in every game. And I think that when you have a defensive end room that you can rotate the way ours does, they did disappear for long stretches of games. I think this is a game where what you need to do is you need to bring back that A-gap pressure. I don't care if Matt Milano's not out there to execute it. You can't let that leave your repertoire. And I feel like Anthony hinted at something. Chris, it was a huge development hearing that Sean McDermott was co-calling plays with Bobby Bandage.
Yeah, he's holding his hand.
And look what happened. You're like, oh, wait, good things happen. And McDermott's like, yeah, because I did this for a whole year. I was our defensive coordinator when we went to an AFC title game. I don't need, or like before that, when he was like, hey, I don't need a Bobby Babich. I'll be our coordinator, and then I'll audition people on my staff, and that's how Bobby Babich got his promotion. It's like, hey, I went to a divisional round game and still took Kansas City to the wire. Why? Because I'm good at what I do. I got into the NFL as a head coach because I'm good at this. It's almost like for the last 2 months of football, we've watched like, last week we talked about all the coaches they added.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're a parent and you're watching your kids trying to build a Lego set. And you're like, it's good for them if I just let them struggle. I myself had a teaching moment this week. My children wandered away from me in Home Depot, and I kept telling them, I go, guys, follow me. On my hip, follow me. They're 5 and 3. And I was like, guys, pay attention. Follow me. And so I go, hey, we're going to go to the back of the store. Follow me. And I stick to the main aisles, and I go to walk to the back where all the storage containers are. My kids think it's funny to take off into the appliances. Chris, that section where they show you how to redecorate your interior.
Please tell me Tommy Hidden Oven.
No. They got turned around, kind of turned inside out, because once you get into between all those rows of machines, but it's not the same. It's not like there's organized aisles. They got stuck, and I had already beaten them to the back of the store. Now, mind you, there's only a rack. There's a pallet rack in between me and my children. And they get out to the other side, and my oldest goes, Dad? Oh, great, Tommy. We're lost. And it took less than 25 seconds for the hysterics to start. And you're like, all right, guys. See, this is what happens when you go off the reservation and you do what you want to do. And look, it gets you in trouble. Look how poorly these decisions are going. And then you know what happens after about a 30, 45 second count? Then Dad comes back in the room and he goes, hey, guys, I'm here. Don't worry. Nothing bad's going to happen.
You didn't yell at him in public?
No, it was, what's funny? There was another 55-year-old guy, like in mid to late 50s, in the aisle with me. And when you hear kids just losing their shit in the middle of a Home Depot, it's wild. But I'm like, look, me telling my kids to stay with me and pay attention inside a store is teaching them much less than this 45-second window right here. You guys need this in a controlled environment where nothing bad can happen. And so I'm standing there, and this woman goes, oh my God, are those kids going to be okay? And I go, nah, they're mine. It's fine. And she goes, what? And the husband just starts to laugh, belly laugh, and goes, I remember those days. He goes, you're out here teaching lessons, huh? And we fist bumped. And she goes, you guys. And she's disgusted. So I walk around the outside of the thing, and I get to my kids as a Home Depot employee is coming over to be like, oh my God, are you kids okay? And they latch on to me. And I'm like, I got it under control. And the look that the woman was giving me, I'm like, I know what you're thinking right now. I'm a monster. No, what it is I need my kids to understand when they sometimes just need to listen to Dad. That's what Sean McDermott's become here now for this team. Love him or hate him, Sean McDermott stepped into the room and was like, hey, guys, it's time to listen to Dad. I've let you guys have your fun. You guys all got together and thought you had a plan, and it's all gone to hell. And then Dad steps in and you go, guys, see, this is how it could be. This is what could be happening if you were just good at your jobs. So why don't we work together and I'll help you be good at your job. I feel like this is an opportunity for us to get back to some of the things that made us really successful. The A-gap and B-gap linebacker blitz has been missing from this team all season. And yet it's something that we used to do regularly that would constantly throw off quarterbacks, consistently keep quarterbacks off balance, because especially now that we don't have Ed Oliver, where is that interior rush coming from?
Ogunjobi.
Yeah. I'd prefer Ogunjobi to be the body that opens up a lane for Terrell Bernard to come in on a pass rush rep. Even if he doesn't get the sack, it at least moves the quarterback, because now you have no choice but to vacate the pocket. I just think that there's more that they could be doing, and this is a game where they have to do it. And if Trey Smith can't play, Michael Hoyt and that linebacker group coming in against a guy like Caliendo at guard or whoever they plug in there, Doesn't matter. I think that's where you can really get some things going for you. Also on the edge, I like the idea of being able to rotate Hoyt and Bosa against Juwan Taylor at right tackle. I don't think he's that good. He's also had his protection problems. And if you really don't believe in their left tackle, maybe this is a game where you let Greg Rousseau go play against the right tackle, and you move Joey Bosa over to rush off the left side. I think that they have a deep enough defensive end rotation in this game where they need to exploit that because it's one of their few advantages. And if they can do that regularly enough, I think it's going like you can make a few plays that might tip the scales in the game. You know, the old days of the Kansas City Chiefs never turning the ball over are over. They're doing it now at a regular clip because they don't have great skill position players. So accidents happen. Let's see if we can't cause some chaos and force the issue. I also think for the Bills on offense, it's just a healthy dose that's just a healthy service of the secret sauce. Just pour it on, ladle it on. I need to see multiple tight end sets. And if, let's say, Dalton Kincaid can't play, I need to see more Reggie Gilliam then. And I need to see that usage of heavy personnel who every single one of them are capable of catching the ball. Hawes, Knox, Gilliam. You need to have that in your golf bag in this game if you're the Buffalo Bills, because down the field, the secondary of the Chiefs, if you weren't able to make hay down the field against the Carolina Panthers, you are really going to struggle to do it through the air against this Chiefs team. And so in that way, you're really going to have to rely on what makes your team special, and that's having this multifaceted H-back and tight end room that can do so much for you. Reggie Gilliam was a sledge. His nickname, Sledge. He was a hammer against the Panthers, constantly digging out linebackers out of the hole and creating creases for Cook to flow through. Also, we've watched Reggie Gilliam be a red zone threat. Jackson Hawes, the team's 5-0 when he catches a pass. Mostly because you show a team, and I mean, I guess he did have that one dramatic catch against Baltimore to set up a touchdown. But also, he's a guy who maybe needs a little bit more of an expanded role because he's one of your best run blockers out in space. Lean on this. Go heavy personnel and make them take some of their star defensive backs off the field, knowing that, hey, we're going to hit them with bigger body types against those smaller DBs that are mismatches. These are the things you're going to have to do if you're going to win this game as the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if they have it in them. Chris, do you? Like, well, how confident are you ahead of this one?
Not confident at all.
And it's weird, right? Because we're used to coming into every game going, we've got Josh Allen.
Yeah.
We've got a puncher's chance to win everything. I think Josh Allen, that's the third key to victory, is Josh Allen has to find his swagger. Josh Allen's a quarterback who said a lot of strange things this year. He takes the brunt of the blame for the fact that our passing attack hasn't gone anywhere. He said things like, hey, my wife has convinced me that I'm more than a football player. And I don't need to live, which I take to mean I don't need to live and die by this. And he's playing like a guy who believes that. He's a middle of the road, super talented, but middle of the low energy quarterback. That's not what I'm used to seeing. Even Sugar High Josh at least was reckless. This guy just, I don't know what his pulse is. And that's a problem if you're the Buffalo Bills, because you've built your identity around the fact that I could always rely on Josh Allen to put on the cape. You know, as Anthony said, it's like he can, I need to know he can still put it on, because at this point through this many weeks of the season, I don't know that Josh Allen still has that in his golf bag. And that's a terrifying prospect for a team that's stuck looking up at a younger quarterback in the division who is doing all the right things, sacrificing the body to make plays and making, hey, I can make deep passes, I can make short passes, I can do all the things. Did the moment pass us? Did we already miss our shot? Is Allen just going to, is he already semi-retired? I'd like to believe that he still has a pulse. If any game was going to get him up for it, I would assume it would have to be this one, right?
Yeah. He's got to play well.
All right, well, that's it. that's it. And all the people who are saying this is a must-win game, it's not, because the rest of them still have to be played. It will make our life in the AFC and the AFC race that much harder. If we don't win, it will become markedly harder. We're probably looking at wild card status if we don't. And that's okay. The Giants did it twice. And I don't know how many other teams ever have won a Super Bowl as a wild card. But hey, you never say never, right?
Yeah.
Guys, make sure you stop out at the tailgate and say hi. I really do. This has the feeling of like the last hurrah before some really ugly weather sets in here in Buffalo. So if you're planning on coming out to a tailgate, make this one the weekend. Where can everybody find us?
4180 Abbott Road, dock slot.
Guys, I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rockpile Report.